Chapter 6, Part 2. Thinking about the Circle Justice meetings brought Cole's anger alive once more. If Garvey or Edwin or anybody else showed their ugly faces on the island now, they better watch out. Cole swatted at the persistent mosquitoes and studied the bay. His only mistake in trying to escape had been forgetting about the incoming tide. Next time he would wait until the tide flowed outward. He would use the current to help carry him away from this armpit place. Cole walked over to the small clear stream, flowing out from the trees at the head of the bay. The canopy of trees, vines, dead-fallen undergrowth formed a wall of dark green vegetation that would have been hard to crawl through. How did the spirit bear move like a ghost through such tangled forest? Cole knelt on the slippery rocks until the chalky dryness left his mouth. Hunger gnawed at his stomach, but he ignored it. If he had to, he'd eat raw fish or grass. He'd eat anything if it helped get him off this island. Returning to the ashes, Cole noticed faint smoke curling up from one mound. He dug carefully with a stick until he found hot coals, then scrounged dry twigs from under the tree branches. Steady blowing soon coaxed a weak flame to life. This time he would leave with his body warm and his belly full of food. Heavy dark clouds crowded the far horizon, but clear sky overhead let the sun bathe the ground with warmth. Cole leaned his head back to soak the sunshine. Garvey had said this area had tons of rain. What did he know, living in Minnesota? There had been a few light showers yesterday and during the night, but now the weather was great. For the next few hours, Cole sat on the shore and studied the tide. Once the breeze ruffled the tree branches behind him, and Cole spun around, expecting the spirit bear again. He saw only a couple of big gray birds hopping from among the branches. He snickered at how jumpy he was. What was he afraid of? The spirit bear wouldn't show itself now that it knew a human was around. It was the one that should be scared. Cole discovered that high tide occurred midday and began flowing out of the bay within an hour. He knew that tides repeated themselves every 12 hours, which meant the next receding tide would be late tonight, then another this time tomorrow. Reluctantly, Cole admitted it would be best to leave tomorrow. He didn't want to swim at night. He almost wished he could be here to see the faces of Garvey and Edwin when they returned and found him gone and everything burned to the ground. His dad's reaction would be even better. "What are you going to do, Dad?" Cole asked aloud, as if his dad were sitting beside him on the rocks. "Who are you going to sue? Who are you going to hit?" Cole knew what his dad hated most about this whole situation was that his son wasn't something that could be fixed with a lawsuit or a stiff drink. The only solution was to hit Cole harder, and that hadn't helped either. Cole remembered once when he had disobeyed his father and come home late. After being strapped until his skin was raw with welts, he watched in horror as his dad paused and turned the belt around with his big knuckled hands. "You think life's a game? You think you're in charge? You think I'm a big joke?" his father shouted as he started hitting Cole again, this time with the metal buckle end. Again and again, Cole screamed, Don't, I'm sorry I came home late. I'll obey, please, Dad, don't. Life's not a game. Please stop." As Cole kept screaming, his dad kept hitting him. That night was the only time Cole's mom ever said anything in his defense. She came to the doorway, a drink in her hand. "Honey, you're hurting him," she said. Cole's father spun around to face her. "You mind your own business or I'll use this thing on you." Cole's mother retreated down the hall, but the strapping stopped. Cole stood and stretched. Going to an island had seemed like a good idea after being locked up for 3 months. Now it seemed stupid. It was mainly Garvey's fault after the Fifth Circle meeting when Cole had grown frustrated by all the references to jail. He had finally pleaded with the Circle members. "Why can't you just believe me when I say I'm sorry and won't ever hurt anybody again?" Peter's lawyer had asked for the feather. "All your life you've lied, manipulated people, and tried to avoid consequences," she said. There is absolutely no reason to believe that you have truly changed inside. Great, then get rid of me, Cole said. Send me someplace where I'm not in your face and can't hurt anyone. But why do I have to go to jail? Cole has a point, said Garvey. Maybe there is someplace other than prison. Any place he goes, there will be people he could assault, Peter's mother said. It's not like we can ship Cole to the Arctic Circle. Garvey's face came alive with thought, and he asked for the feather again. I'm a native Chinglet, he said. I was raised in southeast Alaska. It is possible I could make arrangements to have Cole banished to a remote island on the Inland Passage. This is something First Nation people have done for hundreds of years. Cole could undergo a vision quest of sorts, an extended time alone to face himself and to face the angry spirits inside of him. Would anybody be with him? Asked the keeper. No, Garvey shook his head. Occasionally an elder would check on him. What makes banishment work is the extreme isolation. It allows the offender to spend a long period free of all friends, drugs, alcohol, and other influences that have gotten them into trouble. It's a time to think. For how long? Asked Judge Tanner. His voice edged with skepticism. Perhaps a year. Peter's mother motioned for the feather. Okay, let's say Cole is sentenced to some island for a year. What happens after that year if he hasn't changed? Would he go free to hurt somebody else's child? Garvey shook his head. Banishment isn't a sentence. It's simply a time for Cole to walk his talk. We tell him to give more than lip service to the idea of change, but what chance does he have to prove anything if he's locked up? Sentencing would be delayed until the end of Cole's banishment. Then this same circle could reevaluate him and decide whether he has walked his talk and whether a sentence is still necessary. What do you think of this idea? The keeper asked Cole. Cole shrugged. I've spent lots of time outside. It's not like I couldn't take care of myself. He turned to Garvey. But could I still end up going to jail after spending a whole year on some island? That would be totally up to you, Garvey said. You keep asking for a chance to prove you've changed. If you have nothing to worry about. Cole tried not to show it, but he was plenty worried. Suddenly everybody seemed to motion for the feather at once. Rapidly the feather worked its way around the circle. The air bristled with comments and questions, and by the time the keeper finished her closing prayer that night, everyone had agreed that Garvey should explore to see whether the plan might actually work. After the meeting, Garvey motioned Cole aside. You do know that banishment is much harder than any jail cell, don't you? He said. Then what's the point? Cole asked. If you go to jail, I won't bet a nickel on your future. So what's so hard about living on some island for a while? Garvey smiled knowingly. Go ahead and try it. Try manipulating the storm or lying to your hunger. Try cheating the cold.